Today I will show you several cast-off methods on the Passap. I will start with the chain stitch cast-off. It is suitable for double bed knitting. I have knitted 60 rows for the demonstration. First, rotate the racking handle to its upper position. Move the edge springs and use the double eye bodkin tool to transfer all stitches to the needles on the back bed. You can transfer them to the front bed, but if you do so, you have to make the cast-off on the back bed. You will see it up close in a minute. Then later in the video I will show you how to use this cast-off method if you are knitting single bed. Place the edge springs back on the last working needles, then raise the opposite needles on the front bed. Rotate the racking handle to its lowest position, lower the front bed and attach weights to the knitting. Increase the stitch size by one number on the side where all the needles are empty. Don't change the settings on the side with the stitches. I will use different colored yarn only for the demonstration. Knit one row. Lower the front bed and use the orange ruler to push the stitches towards you. If you look closely, you will see how the yarn is going between the needles. The stitches are secured by the yarn on the front bed, so you have to make the chain cast off on the back bed. Insert the open latch needle into the first stitch at right. Then insert it into the second stitch, moving it downwards until only the first stitch slips behind the open latch. Now pull it upwards until the first stitch slips over the closed latch. Repeat these steps until the last stitch is in the hook. I'm using the orange tool to keep the next stitch open, this way I can easily catch the next stitch. Sometimes when you pull the yellow tool upward to make the chain, the next stitch becomes small and it takes some time to fix it. Now bring the last stitch behind the latch and leave the tool on the machine. Take the yarn from the lock and cut it. You can wrap the yarn around the NX lever to make it easier to retread the machine. Wrap the yarn tail behind the latch into the hook and pull it through. Remove the weights and raise the front bed. Move the edge springs, raise the needles, then pull them down to remove the knitting from the machine. This is what the simple chain stitch cast-off should look like. It's stretchy and looks great. Now let's continue with the zigzag latch cast-off. That's my favorite one. I have knitted 80 rows for the demonstration. Increase the stitch size by 2 numbers on each side of the lock. I will change the yarn only for the demonstration. Attach weights to the knitting, knit one row and lower the front bed. Now the yarn is laying in a zigzag between the needles, the stitches are in the middle and none of them isn't secured. Insert the yellow tool into the rightmost stitch on the back bed. Now insert it into the first stitch on the front bed, moving it downwards until the first stitch slips behind the latch. Pull the yellow tool upwards until the first stitch slips over the closed latch. Now insert it into the next stitch on the back bed and continue repeating these steps until the last stitch is in the hook. I love this method because I don't have to transfer the stitches. Now bring the last stitch behind the latch and leave the tool on the machine. Take the yarn from the lock and cut it. You can wrap the end around the NX lever. Wrap the yarn tail behind the latch into the hook and pull it through. Raise the front bed, remove the weights and move the edge springs. Now raise the needles all the way, then bring them down to remove the knitted piece. It should look like this. This method is also stretchy. Now let's make a single bed chain stitch cast off. I have knitted a total of 100 rows. Leave the same settings on the front lock, then set the back lock to N and the stitch size to 2. Remove the black strippers and insert the orange ones. Make sure the racking handle is in its lowest position and raise the same number of needles on the back bed. You have to observe the needle rule. Lower the front bed and attach weights to the knitting. Then raise it and knit one row. Lower the front bed and look at the needles. The stitches are secured on the back bed, so we have to make the chain cast off on the front bed. The steps are the same. Insert the open latch needle into the first stitch at right. Then insert it into the second stitch, moving it downwards until only the first stitch slips behind the open latch. Now pull it upwards until the first stitch slips over the closed latch. Repeat these steps until the last stitch is in the hook. You can use the orange tool to make the process easier. By the way, don't forget to support me by liking the video. Now bring the last stitch behind the latch and leave the tool on the machine. Take the yarn from the lock and cut it. Wrap the yarn tail behind the latch into the hook and pull it through. Remove the weights and raise the front bed. Move the edge springs, raise the needles, then pull them down to remove the knitting from the machine. This is what the single bed chain stitch cast off should look like. It's not stretchy at all. Now let's cast off some stitches by hand. This method is used when knitting garments, especially when there are more than 3 stitches to decrease. I have knitted 50 rows. Rotate the racking handle to its upper position and attach weights to the knitting. Move the edge springs and transfer all stitches to the needles on the front bed. If you transfer the stitches to the back bed, it would be harder to make the cast off because you have to wind the yarn around the needles. The weights will keep the stitches in place while transferring them. Now each needle has 2 stitches in its hook. Take the yarn from the lock and pull it. Don't cut it, just hold it with your hand. With the transferring tool, pick the rightmost stitch from the front bed and move it 1 needle to the left. Raise the needle all the way so both stitches slide behind the latch, and with your other hand wrap the yarn from the lock behind the latch and into the hook. Pull the needle back to knit off those stitches. Now there will be 1 stitch in the hook of the rightmost needle. Take it using the transferring tool and repeat the same steps. You can make this cast off if the lock is on the left side of the knitting tool. Repeat these steps until you cast off all stitches. Remove the weights when there are 4 or 5 stitches left. It may be a bit harder without them, but if they are attached, the stitches may become bigger than the others. You can pull slightly the piece from below. When you have only 1 stitch left, you can take the yarn from the lock and cut it. Then wrap the yarn tail behind the latch into the hook and pull the needle down. Repeat 1 more time to secure the last stitch. Finally, pull the yarn through the loop. And that is the final result. This cast-off method is not stretchy. That's all for today. Have a nice day and see you in my next video.